So now I'd like to bring another CSW, Certified Specialist of Wine. Deanna, come on down. Hello, Deanna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good. Hi, I'm Deanna. I'm the liquor manager of Lindenwood Schnucks. I am a CSW and a CSS. My favorite wine is Red Zinfandel specifically. I've worked for Schnucks for 10 years. I've worked as a checker. I worked and moved my way up to the liquor department, and I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. So as I said, it was Red Zinfandels are my favorite. I love rosés, sparkling. I go all over the board. I definitely, when I'm in a department, I love to show my customers around. I love to take you around California, Italy, France, Germany, everywhere. So I'm big about education, about telling you what the wine is and why you should pair it with the food.
So difference of grapes, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's the basics. You have your Cabernet, Merlot, all your reds, and then you have some of your whites, your Pinot Grigios, Rieslings, Moscatos.
So when you talk about Cabernets and Merlots, what we're talking about is the heavy tannins.
Yes.
So Cabernet is going to be a heavy tannic grape, where the Merlot can be a little bit softer in tannins, all the way down to Zinfandels, and then the bottom one would be Pinot Noirs.
And that's why I really like Zinfandels, because they're not heavy in tannins. And same with Pinot Noirs. There's a grape called Grenache that's a little bit more fruity, jammy. That's a really good starter red that I like to show off to people.
And Grenache is a really good Spanish, for Spanish foods. It's also a little bit lower in acid, so if you do have a little bit of problems with acid, try Grenache or Grenache. It's same grape, same wine, different names. So when you talk about the white wines, go from your heavy to your light.
So I'll start with the Chardonnay. That's probably your heaviest white.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Southwark, Pinot Grigio. That's a pretty middle-of-the-road white that I like to start. If you don't really like the sweet whites, but you don't really like the Chardonnay, like the buttery Chards and the really citrusy Sauv Blancs. And if you want to get into that sweet side, definitely Riesling and Moscato.
Yeah, and actually, Riesling can go both ways. It can be dry and sweet. Now, why don't you talk a little bit about the rosés?
Yeah, I love French rosés. They're a lot drier, a lot much more crisp compared to some of the other jammy rosés you'll find in like California region. Not all of them are like that, but there's very much of that. And then you can also get into your sparkling rosés, sparkling Proseccos and Brutes and Champagnes. They go all across the board. You're making different things. Definitely talk to your liquor manager. I would always point you in the right direction.
And your sparkling wines, there's going to be different words on there. So look for the word Brut. Brut means that it's a dry wine. If you see the word extra dry, it's a little sweeter than the Brut. So you have to understand, and it doesn't matter what country you're getting your sparkling wine from, they're all going to use the same level of what we call sweetness. So Brut or Natural is always going to be the driest, and then your extra dry is a little bit sweeter, and then you have another one that will be called your demi-sec, which is going to be the sweetest.
And I'd be really careful when you're starting to use like Brutes and champagnes to use them for different things, because some of them are a little bit more yeasty and have a different flavor component compared to some of the baseline ones.
Sure. So, hey, thank you, Deanna. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
So we have another CSW with us today, and remember, hashtag Schnucks Wine Club in the comments to be entered to win for a free wine club membership. So, I'd like to invite Stacy and Deanna back.
I'm bringing the wine.
Thank you, Stacy. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please send them to us right away. We can answer those questions for you. So how long can I keep a bottle of wine before it goes bad? Well, all right, so the question would be there is, did somebody give you that wine? Was it a gift? And, did you buy it from us? Hopefully you did. You shouldn't be buying your wine anywhere else. But the question is the caliber of that wine. So like I said, if I said earlier, if it's about $20 or under, I wouldn't go more than 3 years for a white wine. But on the red wines, the heavier bottles, they can go about 5 to 6 years. If you're looking for something that you want to age for a long period of time, you're going to have to go ahead and make sure that you get an area in your basement, if you don't have a wine fridge or a wine cooler, and make sure that you have it at the proper temperature. The proper temperature for long-term storage is around 55 degrees. They thought about this, they figured this out a couple thousand years ago. That's what they used the caves for. So the caves were a constant temperature, there was no light, and it was always 55 degrees. So if I'm hosting a brunch, what's a good wine for mimosa? Would you like to take that?
Definitely Prosecco, that's what I always sell. They're a little bit sweeter than the regular brut or extra dry, but not all the time. But definitely look for the words brut and extra dry.
Yeah, and I would use those words for, I would look for those two calibers of wine for your mimosa. The reason I always go to that is if you start out with a sweet wine base and you're adding more sugar to it, you're going to have something that's going to be really way too sweet. So start out with a dry base or a semi-dry base and then add your, but you can use something else besides orange juice, right?
Yes, you can do pineapple juice, you can go really creative. You can do cranberry juice, and you should just post it onto the Schnips Instagram or hashtag us, whatever you can do, so we can be creative.
You said one before, was it Aperol or?
Oh yeah, Aperol Spritz. You can do the traditional Italian one, get some DOCG or DOC, Italian Prosecco, and some Aperol.
There you go.
Perfect summer drink.
So why do we put different wines in different glasses? Well, Stacy, you want to talk about that one?
Sure. So this glass that we have here is perfect for a red wine because it has a large bowl. And what we want to do is sometimes red wines can be tannic. And so when you have a large bowl wine and you swirl your wine, those tannins are released. And so it's not such a tannic wine by the time it will dissipate and soften. So then on a white wine, you want a smaller one because you want more of the floral notes to go right. You want to smell those right as soon as you're picking up your glass. And if you have a smaller bowl and your white wine in there, then you smell those.
Yeah, and that bowl is really important because of the esters of the wine, the aroma. So, and because you said the red wine's a little bit heavier, so that's what you need, something a little swirl it around to get it up to the top, where the white wine's a little more delicate. So you don't need that big wide bowl.
Yeah. So Matt, this just then, and I want a question from Jamie. I want to pose this to our teammates from the stores. Which wine do you recommend most often to your customers?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the first question I would ask are, what is having for dinner? Where are you going? What do they usually drink? And if you can't answer any of those questions, I go with a rosé, a sparkling, or a really jammy red. Those are my first and foremost that I go for.
Yeah, rosé's just not for summertime anymore. It's for all year round. I mean, it's going to be perfect for our upcoming holiday of what we call Thanksgiving, right? And it's a great wine to go with the turkey, so that would be the great questions there. What would you recommend?
I think I agree with those that it depends on the food that you're having. I always say, like, match your color of your food. I think Colin mentioned that you match the color of your food with the wine that you're drinking. So, like chicken with white wine, I tell you, Robert Mondavi Fumé Blanc goes great with a crayfish boil. Somebody told me about the crawfish boil. They came in, they asked for a recommendation, and they came back and they told me, and they said that was a great pairing with that. So I always kind of just look what they're eating or where they're going and go with the wines that I'm familiar with to offer to them.
And Colin, what would be your recommendation if you were in the stores out there and somebody's coming up and say, I need something for dinner?
It all depends. You guys hit it right on. It all depends on what you're having. And again, for me, I keep it simple. I try to ask, hey, what have you tried in the past that you like? And try to find something that I know in that same taste profile that'll go with it. And that's what I would do. But yeah, once you give me a few clues of what you're trying to do, I'd probably clue you in. But for me, I'm a sucker for the red blends. I'm a sucker for rosés, big cabs. It all depends on, again, do I like these two things together when you try?
Right. Well, if when I was in the stores and if somebody was asking me and I would say, hey, well, what are you going to have? And they said, well, we don't know, but we're going to need a white wine. I would probably tell them to go to Sauvignon Blanc, because the Sauvignon Blanc, I mean, you'll hear the expression that this wine is a food-friendly wine, and that's all true. But Sauvignon Blanc has a bigger parameter of foods to go with. So where you get into some other wines, whether it's a Chardonnay or a Riesling or a Pinot Grigio, they're kind of more, the food profile can be narrowed down a little bit. It's the same thing with the red wines as well. Now, there's a question here on the board, does every store have a CSW? Sadly not, we are working on that. We're constantly working on that. And thank you, Gabe, for that question, I appreciate that. And so we have a question here about wine bottles having different shapes. Why do some have a dome and some have the base? Well, a lot of that is because of tradition. When they go back and they started making bottles, glass bottles, a couple hundred years ago, you'll see something in the bottom of the bottle like this. This is called a punt. You'll see a lot of different stories of why people think that that punt's on there. They think that it helps the wine breathe. Honestly, no one's ever come up with an exact answer of what it actually does for the wine, but I will tell you the reason that the punt was put on the bottle to begin with is because back then they didn't have the technology and the equipment to make your glass bottles straight. So this was a one way to make your bottle level, so when you laid it down on the table, it wouldn't fall over, right? But so then it became kind of a tradition. Colin, you want to explain why some of the red wines or the Pinot Noirs are in a different shaped bottle than the Cabs?
I think some of from my experience, a lot of that is producer's preference, right? And I think that's why they do this. But
well, it's going to be, yeah. So it is preference, that is true, but it's about tradition as well. And tradition is, if you go back to Burgundy, France, all your wines were put in this shape of a bottle. If you go to Bordeaux, it's a different shaped bottle. So that's the only reason for it whatsoever. Other than that, it's really nothing.
Mike Ward also said last night, we actually had this question last night at the cooking class. Schnucks offers wine classes that we do at De Pere, and you can go to the Schnucks website and you can sign up for a wine class. But Mike Ward talked about this last night. They were also made because of the sediment.
Correct.
Would settle. So if they had a bottle like this, the sediment would settle right here. So then when you pour the wine out with a cheesecloth, you weren't getting that sediment. It was going, you pour slowly and it would settle there and not in your glass.
Right. So, would you like to take corks versus brew caps?
Yeah. So which is better? And really, it's on preference. There's really no difference right at this moment. We've really improved. Sometimes you can get something called cork taint when you have a corked bottle, and that's just a mold. It's not harmful, is it?
It changes the flavors and makes the wine very skunky.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably about the best word for it.
That's probably, yeah, that's the best
The
word.
wine's gonna go bad.
Yeah, don't drink it. It won't taste good, I
But
promise.
you're not gonna have cork taint with a screw cap.
Right.
Okay, right. Do we have job openings in the liquor department? Yeah, so you have to go to schnooks.com/careers. That's schnooks.com/careers. And yes, and you do not have to be a CSW to apply for that position. Once you get in and we go through the process and we see what it takes, because this is not, it's a very worthwhile endeavor, but it's not an easy endeavor. So yeah, but it can be done. So Colin, would you like to talk about the other perks?
Yeah.
About the Schnucks Wine Club?
Absolutely, Matt. So become a Schnucks Wine Club member. This means that you get 15% off every day. We mentioned that 15% off every day. And then you get as a wine club member, you get access to unique events. We've done Grapes in the Garden at the Botanical Garden, Food and Wine Show. You will get an opportunity to pre-register for those events. You get members-only events at the cooking school.
You'll see me there.
Yes, that's right. You'll probably see me there. Pre-registration to those popular wine focus events that I just mentioned, as well as coming soon our wine club newsletter.
So another thing is about special wines. So we're going to be focusing in on highly allocated wines pretty soon. And when we get those in, because we don't know how much we're going to get in, we can't guarantee anybody anything. We may only get 24 bottles in the whole state of a very highly expensive wine or highly allocated wine. And you're going to get first crack at that. So that's going to be announced through the wine club.
Yeah.
So remember, Schnucks, hashtag Schnucks Wine Club in the comment section to be entered for a free wine club membership.
Yeah, and for more information on Schnucks Wine Club, please visit schnucks.com/wine club.
One winner will be pulled at random and notified on 9/24. Well, that's all the time we have for, do we have any more questions today, or is that it? Okay, so we're out of time. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Colin and Stacy and Deanna. And thanks to our technical team back here. You're great. And thank you, everybody, and I hope to see you in the stores. And don't forget, hashtag SchnucksWineClub.com.